Okay, first podcast filmed in Athens, Greece, out of the new office for IDEOLI that we just opened up today. It's first of the month. We're very excited. Today I sit down with a very intelligent person, graduate from the infamous MIT. He's based here in Southeast Europe, and he builds, engineers, designs his company massive, very intelligent and complex transportation projects. Join this episode of the Invigorate Your Business podcast as I sit down with Antulio Richetta in glorious Athens, Greece. My name is George Stroumboulis, and I'm extremely passionate about traveling the world, meeting new people, and learning about new businesses. Join me as I sit down with other entrepreneurs to learn about their journeys. This episode of Invigorate Your Business starts now. I'm very excited to have you here today. This is the first day in our new office here in Athens, and we're just excited and filming our podcast. This is the first episode that we're actually doing here in Athens.
Oh, wow.
As well. So we met a couple months ago through a mutual friend. And the interesting thing is we have done business indirectly with your company in Canada, and then come to find out you actually work here in Greece and your background. So I appreciate you sitting down with us and just talking to us about your business, your background, what you do. So welcome.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. And also, welcome to Greece. And as they say in Greek, kaloriziko, with good roots.
Thank you.
The office and the company. Yes, we met. I was very pleased to meet you. I have been in Greece for the past 27 years.
27 years, okay.
And the reason I came is because I was in college, and in college I met a beautiful Greek lady that is now my wife.
Always a lady involved, right? There's
And we decided to come back to Greece and get married here after she finished her PhD. And I started working we were both in Boston. I started working for IBI in Boston a year before we came.
Right.
And when we decided to move, IBI fortunately decided to open an office in Athens.
For you, essentially, to support
essentially, yes.
Yeah.
It's IBI is very much based on its people and the potential that the management sees on their people, and I am very grateful that the management then saw the opportunity to continue working with me.
Totally.
And explore the opportunities in Greece.
Yes.
We came in 1997, so it's 25 years. And then Greece had just gotten the Olympics. They announced that Athens won the Olympics,
right?
And that brought a very good momentum to the country on what pertains to infrastructure and new infrastructure. So the 2004 Olympics were really catalytic in Greece, doing that leap towards a country and a city, Athens, having a lot more mature and complete infrastructure. And that's what IBI does.
See, and that's where infrastructure, if you're driving through a tunnel, through a big mountain, if you're on a highway with toll roads that are connecting cities, yes, in Greece, in Southeast Europe, right? You guys are operating around the world. Yes. Before we even talk about those projects that are complex transportation projects, take us back. So you were born and raised in Venezuela.
Oh, yes.
I want to hear that story because, and I know you're modest, but I want to talk about, you went to one of the most prestigious schools in the world, MIT, but
yes, I went to MIT.
Walk us through that path from Venezuela to MIT, and how does that look?
It has to start with my father. My father is Italian. Okay. And he emigrated to Venezuela in 1950. He's still alive. He's living with us in Athens.
So back and forth, Italy and Greece, right? You have to.
Yes, because of COVID, he goes back and forth to Italy, and he's 91 and still can take care of himself. So he's doing great. So my father, Antonio, immigrated to Venezuela in 1950, and he started doing different jobs. And one of them, he became a mechanic. a car engineer.
Wow. Okay.
And he was working with my grandfather. He had a gas station and a shop.
In Venezuela.
Venezuela, and then my mother fell in love with him, and they got married. My mother, Josefina, who was from Venezuela. Wow. So they had 3 boys. I'm the third, and we grew up in the suburbs of Caracas. It's like saying that you grew up in Halkida, for example, if you compare it to Athens.
So a good hour outside of the city.
Yes. Yep. So we were quite isolated as kids. We were going to our good school, Catholic school, and so on. And however, when my first brother finished his high school, he started looking for opportunities abroad. And those were the 70s. And the 70s in Venezuela was the golden age of Venezuela.
Really?
Venezuela is an oil-producing country, and those years, the situation in the world was such that Venezuela was one of the main producers of oil in the world.
Right.
And they continued to be in the vanguard until the 90s. And we were lucky enough to get scholarships, my brother. So he went to the States.
Okay.
He went to Columbia University for studying chemical engineering.
So wait, what was your background? So your father was a mechanic. Were you guys financially strong as a family, and they were able to support you to go there? Or?
Yes, he ended up at the pinnacle of his career. He started a group of chemical companies, chemistry and so on. Chemical companies producing a wide range of products, domestic, industrial, for supporting many of the industries in Venezuela. So he was very successful. He didn't go to school. He basically learned the craft, but he has the knowledge of a chemical engineer.
Amazing.
He was able to set up he was responsible for the construction and the production of the chemicals that they were selling.
Wow.
And that's why my brother number 1, Octavio, and I started chemical engineering.
So you started chemical engineering.
Yes.
Octavio gets a scholarship to go to Columbia in New York.
And then Romano was the first one that went to MIT. He went for a master's in operations research at MIT. Then Octavio followed. He has a PhD in operations research. And then when I finished my chemical engineering in Venezuela, I also followed and went for a master's in transportation at MIT.
Transportation.
So I switched a bit the field.
Okay.
And that's where Amalia came from Athens, also to take her PhD in transportation.
At MIT.
At MIT as well. So we are a couple, a marriage of MIT.
No pressure on your kids, right?
Yes. None of them are becoming engineers, by the way. Amalia is a civil engineer with specializing in transport. And she is today a professor in the University of the Aegean.
Amazing.
And she commutes to the island of Chios every week. Yes, every week. She funded the Department of Shipping, Trade and Transport then. She also got to be at the Britannica, the vice rector of the university at some point. And in the meantime, we started to have kids, and we have three beautiful, wonderful kids. And I worked with IBI throughout the years.
Right. And then, so the story is incredible. Moving with IBI, and you have a computer science background?
I didn't study computer science, but I was able, when I was at MIT, I got a scholarship and I was teaching computer programming courses.
Okay.
So my very first job was in computer programming. Chemical engineering, transportation, programmer. So I do a lot of work with technology these days, and software has always been part of what I do.
Okay.
If maybe I design it at some projects, I have developed in some others.
So when you come from that, you come to Athens, Greece 25 plus years ago, you've seen ultimate transition, total 180, right? Where the country was, where it is today.
Yes.
How involved have you been with the infrastructure here, like with key projects that you've developed? Just talk to us about that progression as a country, and then as you professionally?
Excellent. That's an excellent question. When we got here in '97, there was as I said, a huge boom of infrastructure for Athens for the Olympics.
Okay.
And the main projects that were beyond the stadiums and all that was the roadway infrastructure, and there is the so-called Attiki ODOS motorway, which is part of the ring road. Yep. That was planned from the 60s, connecting the airport to the rest of the city and also bypassing the north part of the city. So that's the first project that I think has been a showcase for the city. It's great because it connects also the new airport that is also a concession. These are concession projects. So those two projects brought, together with Yefira, that is in the Rio Antirio Bridge, the concept of PPP, private-public partnerships in Greece. Okay. And those are projects that are financed in an important part by the private sector and are run by the private sector.
Can you explain how, without getting into details, I don't know how much you could say, how profitable were those projects, like the payback period from building, like Attiki, although it just changed transportation in the city completely. Yeah. How quickly was that able to be profitable from that investment?
The profitability of those projects, it depends very much on the traffic.
Okay.
And when you have motorways that are urban, usually the revenue model is optimistic because urban traffic is always there.
Right.
And growing together with the GDP, there is a correlation between GDP growth and traffic. Okay. So that phenomenon was almost by the book in Attiki ODOS. So when the economy was growing quickly and well, that was the traffic. Then there were some fluctuations. The project in Attiki ODOS is a concession that has been particular in the sense that when the rate of return is met, the concession stops. It's not for a fixed time, but it's when a goal this milestone is met. Gotcha. And that milestone is going to be met in a couple of years, by the way. So the concession, I believe, started in 2001 and is ended in 2024. So in 23 years, Attiki ODOS was able to pay back the project. And it's not so much profitable, is to be able to pay the debt back of the investment of the infrastructure,
which is a huge accomplishment.
Yes. So the investors were the private sector, the concessionaires, the state, and the European community. Right. When that money, together with the expected returns and markup for profit, is made, then Attiki ODOS goes into the next stage of basically going and rebidding not the construction anymore, but the continuation of the operations. And that's what we're going to have in 2024.
Amazing.
Yes.
So you have these projects under you. I want to talk a couple of things. You built a large office here. IBI invested in you to invest in an office here. You have several people that work at your company there. Yes. Is this talent here in Greece, is it MIT caliber? Do you need that? Like, what is the makeup of the talent that you're recruiting in Greece, in Southeast Europe? Are you attracting from other countries?
The talent in Greece, the talent pool is very strong. It's very strong. The educational system in Greece, the universities they provide an excellent training. Okay. But beyond that, the Greek people are really committed to success, right? And their success and the success of the companies they work with. So, if you ask me what has been stronger is that commitment, and the Greeks go with the heart, and they really make sure that they are successful in performing a project. So
absolutely,
it has been amazing this experience. We work mainly with Greeks. Professional Greeks. We have had engineers from other countries as well. Yeah. but that went to school here, for example. So
Gotcha.
we found them through the school, in the Greek schooling system. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's been
Greek
educated.
Yes,
right?
yes. Talking about new hires, when you're hiring new people, and there's younger people entering the workforce who are younger. What's some advice where are some things where you see flaws in general, not just Greek employees, but in general, where can people improve? Some advice for new people entering a company.
For the professionals or for the employers? The employers.
The employees is a good one, and employers, like from what you see. Any type of advice from your seat, because you have 40 plus people that work under you in your office, right?
Well, in engineering engineering is a particular field, because if you come from a market from abroad, the interpersonal and the interview is very important.
Yes.
In Greece, the interview could be, if you come from abroad, it could be somewhat disappointing, let's say, because the culture is such that there is no so much energy that you put in there. It's more, they are more dedicated for the CV to building what they study, the grades, for example. So in engineering, you need to see all that the combination of different things.
Right.
It is hard, for example, to read how the person will be able to work in a team, for example. So that's a little bit of
always an unknown, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Which is very, very important. Teamwork is I would say, one of the most important factors of a person, of a professional, when they work in a company and with a team. It's like anywhere else in the world, but the Greek culture, you have to have in mind that it's more subdued, an engineer as well. So
absolutely. And you personally managing these people and growing personally in your career, what's your outlet to gather leadership skills and learn as you go? Over the years, what have you been doing to become better at what you do?
Well, you have to try to listen a lot. It is very important to always analyze. We are a project related company, so we always go back and do an analysis of when we have completed a project, especially if it has not gone extremely well. Sometimes we go over budget. Sometimes the client might not be that satisfied, but it's more on the over budget, because there is no project that we're going to let the client not be satisfied. So we go back and see where we had to work better. We have also multidisciplinary and multi-geographical involvement, even and multinational.
Yes.
A lot of the projects have an international office component that needs to be managed. Yep. Those offices work in other cost bases, so you need to be really aware of that difference when you make your offers and when you execute the projects as well.
Absolutely.
And because of that, we recently started our own, our local software development team in order to be more competitive. That started a year ago.
Excellent. And that's under your...
And that's under my responsibility as well. So now I finally have a software team, because I've been working with software already all my life. So
full circle, right?
Yes, full circle. Yeah. Yes. We also recently opened, a couple of years ago, an office that is dedicated to the design of infrastructure. Because so far, what we were doing was related to technology. We delivered toll and traffic management systems for motorways. So that is basically the software and the integration of the equipment to manage the infrastructure. But today we have now two offices, the technology and the design infrastructure.
And the design. And
we are very lucky to have started a project with LAMDA development for HELLINIKON.
And LAMDA is, for those listening, the biggest developer in Greece?
Yes, currently the biggest developer in Greece and in the region, I would say.
In the region, right.
And there we are applying the latest techniques for design and coordination. It's called Building Information Modeling, BIM. Okay. And we are basically responsible for the overall coordination of the design and coming up also with the 3D design for the infrastructure of the HELLINIKON. Yeah, it's very exciting.
And Antulio, I know we're pressed for time, but is there anything that you could leave us with on exciting projects that you're working on, or exciting things coming to the region? You know, whether it's Greece or Southeast Europe, projects that you're working on that are going to change people's lives, because the stuff that you guys develop or are a part of, it affects people's lives and how they interact on a daily basis.
For sure. Well, for us, for IBI, and for me, it has been an amazing journey. Today, IBI is the leader of the provision of these tolling and traffic management systems for motorways. We have 5 motorways as our clients, okay, and with 7 different systems running, 5 tolling and 2 traffic management. And that has basically allowed us to have a great base for expanding into other areas. The areas in big infrastructure projects that I think are coming now are related to rail.
Rail, okay.
Rail, I think we'll have the next boom.
Okay. Connecting, so talking about Greece, connecting, because rail basically doesn't exist here from a commercial standpoint, passenger. So the plans would be to connect Athens to the north, or?
The plans would be to connect Athens and more specifically the port of Piraeus, who is now also a very successful concession in the container terminal.
Okay.
With goods that will be transported into Europe, into the Balkans and so on.
Excellent.
Yes, and also there is a port of Thessaloniki that is also being privatized. And it will be the movement of goods will be driving the rest of the infrastructure investment. There will be, of course, competition between rail and motorways on that, but it's important to have a better and richer infrastructure in rail.
Excellent.
So the goods movements, I think, is going to become an important part of what comes next.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I guess the last point is, you and your wife, graduates from prestigious school, you have 3 kids. How much pressure is on them? And how do you handle that coming from that caliber?
There is pressure on them. I think it has been challenging for our kids to try to keep up, because they do compare to us, although we don't put that pressure in. They themselves.
But it's natural. As a son, you try to,
Yes. So my wife and I are engineers. So the first product of that is that our kids, they say, and our oldest is 17, and he's going to university this September, and he went for business school. So the first thing that I think they try to do is not to study the same things that your parents studied.
Like Michael Jordan's kids never play basketball, because you'll never be that. The challenge is to try to step back and let them choose and grow, because if you compare that to the way I grew up with my father, my father was very busy and he was not too much around the house because he was in the factory and so on. But he didn't go to MIT. He didn't go to university. So I was free, let's say, I felt more free to choose and so on. Our kids, I think they feel more restricted. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Antulio, I appreciate you sitting down with us, having a discussion.
My pleasure.
Anything else you want to share with us about your company, IBI? We could put the links up as well. But
that would be great.
Yeah.
Well, IBI is a company that has been very successful in Greece and worldwide. It is based on the relationships that it has with its people and the long-term relationship we have with our clients that are also based on people.
Absolutely.
So although we are a technology design company and driven by technology and engineering, we still know and keep the human factor and the human relationship as our prime asset.
Absolutely.
But the last thing I wanted to say is that, it is very important to stay optimistic in these difficult times and try to transmit the positive thinking as you do, starting with your home, as you think. I think you do. I also try to do that with my kids to make the difference and have people believe that the good outcome will be still the outcome.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great point. Last question for that. Where do you find those outlets to stay positive? Because there's so much darkness, negativity. What's your escape where you draw that from?
Well, first and foremost, from the family. It has been very beautiful to see our kids now that they are, in the ages where they start expressing their opinions and behaving with their own drive, right, to see that they are good people. So that's very important.
Very important.
After that, it is important to stay optimistic and try to go back in history and understand what the progression of these developments could take you to, and of course be on guard, but always believe that the good thing will happen.
Absolutely.
Yes, it's
amen.
Very important.
Amen. I appreciate it. Antulio Richetta, which has one of the best names in the industry too. It rolls off your tongue, but thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Awesome.
My pleasure.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Invigorate Your Business with George Stroumboulis. Please hit the subscribe and like buttons and follow me on all the main podcast streaming channels. Also, please share your comments when you can. I appreciate your help in expanding this network to a worldwide audience. Until next time, stay invigorated.